Sahana bhavatu, sahanau bhunaktu, sahaviryam karavavahai, tejasvinavaditamastu, ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Welcome, everyone. Share the screen. Should be seeing Raising Children as Good Hindus. Do we all see that?
Yes.
Continuing our series. Nine parts. And today we're up to part 7. 2 more to go. First section is on cultivating 9 key spiritual qualities, and the 7th quality to develop is proficiency in conflict resolution. Proficiency in conflict resolution is exemplified when we work out disagreements with others by using intelligence and seeking for a win-win situation. And the question to you is, how is this cultivated in youth? Give you a minute to answer that to yourself. The text has a few different answers. Example, it is through the parents demonstrating these qualities themselves, children learn that this behavior is expected of them by observing their parents' actions. Diplomacy is taught by sitting down with children anytime they use anger, physical force, or verbal injury to prevail in a conflict, and discussing with them how could have been settled with intelligence rather than violence. It is to replacing the idea of I want me to win and you to lose with that of I win when everybody wins. Kids can learn from parents that it is through taking a humble attitude rather than a dominant position that conflicts are resolved smoothly and easily. Illustrations of what to do and what not to do can be drawn from the people they see in television and movies. It's nurtured by parents resolving their husband and wife disagreements before going to sleep, as this teaches by example the importance of facing and solving a conflict rather than fleeing from it.
There is the first module on raising kids, which I don't really need to listen to.
Mastery of resolving differences keeps our young ones' lives sublime and their subconscious minds free of the disturbances caused by memories of unresolved disagreements. Okay, then we're up to the second section. We have a wise precept. Truth is one, sages describe it variously. Hinduism is often misunderstood as being polytheistic, worshiping many gods, none of which is supreme. Why is being considered polytheistic problematic? See what you think there. Polytheistic religions are considered to be primitive and of a lesser status than monotheistic religions. My way of stating the idea is that Hindus all believe in a one supreme being. They just don't agree on the name or nature of that supreme being. It is important to correct this misconception in the minds of children of polytheism. They can be taught that Hindus revere the great beings of light, called Mahadevas, just as the Catholics honor the archangels of heaven. So archangels are something that people don't think about a lot, but I brought this up when we were in London, the Kumbhabhishekam of the Devi Temple. I did some research. I don't recall the number right now, but I looked up the number of churches to St. Michael in the London area, and there were dozens and dozens of them. So who is St. Michael? Is he a person that lived? No, St. Michael is an archangel. So in the Catholic and Episcopal Church of England tradition, it's common to have churches to St. Michael. So he's an archangel. He's like Murugan is in Saivism. So the fact is that Christianity honors beings besides the Supreme Being, but they don't necessarily talk about it very much in modern times. But Hindus all worship the one Supreme Being, known in the various denominations by different names. Even more than that, Hindus believe that the eminent transcendent Lord they worship is indeed the same God worshipped by all peoples of all faiths and religions of the world. That's the idea of Tenadudaya Sivane Potri Anatavarkum Irava Potri, that in the south he who is worshipped as Shiva elsewhere is worshipped as God, or Iravan. The oneness of God is easily understood when we see that the different religions use various names to describe the same truth. Teaching this to our young ones resolves many misconceptions both within Hinduism itself and between Hinduism and the varied faiths of the world. That reminds me of a publisher's desk. Who is the greatest God? It's about, is Vishnu superior or is Shiva superior? It's very popular, has lots of hits. Good title. Who is the greatest God? This is based on a talk I gave at a Venkateshwara temple in Atlanta, Georgia. It was a Kumbhabhishekam for a Shiva temple next to a Venkateshwara temple. So the devotees there were mainly Venkateshwara devotees, so I asked the question to them, who is the greatest God, Shiva or Vishnu? And they were sure, I was sitting there with my 3 stripes, looking very Saivite, I was going to say Shiva. And the answer I gave surprised them. I said, they are equal. Why are they equal? Because each is a supreme being, but to a different Hindu denomination. Oh, that's the idea. There's only one supreme being. We have different names for the supreme being. Third section, imparting beliefs and attitudes. That must be a slide from the last part. Hinduism focuses on personal spiritual transformation through the regular practice of disciplines called sadhana. Reading spiritual books is an essential part of progressing on the Hindu path. However, even more important is the regular practice of religious disciplines. So Hinduism puts greater emphasis on practice, in fact, daily practice, than many other religions do. Our emotional, intellectual, and spiritual natures are all significantly enhanced and developed through performing such disciplines regularly over a period of many years. Establishing good patterns of spiritual practice called sadhana begins in childhood in the home. The most successful pattern in the home is for parents to have their young children join them in the morning devotionals, and as they mature, invite them to join in the yogas and meditations. Hinduism's array of spiritual practices can be divided into 4 categories: good conduct, service, devotion, and meditation. So that's a way of talking about it without using the names Raja Yoga, Karma Yoga, and all. So it's because it's a children's section, so trying to give simple names, and we are very familiar with these, so I'm going to spare you from my reading the details that are in the text, because we know it very well. Second topic is the second half of the Future Pub Desk. Climbing the ladder of consciousness. As I mentioned, it's in the early stages of editing, so it's a bit rough and could be polished up in different ways before it actually gets published. We're going to review to remind us what the 14 levels of consciousness are on the ladder. And in case anyone wasn't here last time, don't want to lose you. Imagine human consciousness as a ladder with 14 rungs. The lower rungs represent the lower states of consciousness, and the higher rungs represent the higher states of consciousness. An excellent understanding of these states is found in the Hindu system of the chakras. Our Himalayan Academy lexicon states that chakra is a Sanskrit term which has the literal meaning of wheel. Metaphysically, chakra refers to any of the nerve plexus or centers of force and consciousness located within the inner bodies of man, not the physical body. In the physical body, there are corresponding nerve plexus, ganglia, and glands. 7 principal chakras can be seen psychically as colorful multi-petaled wheels or lotuses. They are situated along the spinal cord from the base to the cranial chamber. Additionally, 7 chakras barely visible exist below the spine. They are seats of instinctive consciousness, the origin of jealousy, hatred, envy, guilt, sorrow, etc. They constitute the lower hellish world called Naraka or Patala. Thus, there are 14 major chakras in all. Sanskrit names and location in the human body is as follows, plus we have placed each on our ladder of consciousness as a rung. First rung, Patala, located in the soles of the feet, murder and malice. Second rung, Mahatala, feet, absence of conscience. Third rung, Rasatala, ankles, selfishness. Fourth rung, Talatala, calves, prolonged mental confusion. Fifth rung, Sutala, knees, retaliatory jealousy. Sixth rung, Vitala, thighs, raging anger. Seventh rung, Atala, hips, fear and lust. And we get the 7 higher ones. Eighth rung, Muladhara, base of spine, memory, time, and space. Ninth, Swadhisthana, below navel, reason. 10th, Manipura, solar plexus, willpower. 11th, Anahata, heart center, direct cognition. 12th, Vishuddha, throat, divine love. 13th rung, Ajna, third eye, divine sight. And the 14th rung, Sahasrara, crown of head, illumination, godliness. So that's the review. And we'll get to the new material now. The Hindu perspective is that over the course of many lives, a human soul gradually climbs the rungs of the ladder of consciousness. Thus, all souls start out in a lower criminal selfish state and ultimately end up in an illumined state filled with divine light and love. This is a process that goes on automatically from life to life. We'll explain that in a second, automatically. Gurudeva stated that everyone has a guru. What did he mean by that? That's the question to you. How is it that everyone has a guru? Gurudeva often said that everyone has a guru. Till one reaches the higher rungs on the ladder, one's guru is the world. Gurudeva named this guru Shri 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 Vishwaguru Maha Maharaj Ji and gave this description. He does live up to his name in all ways, for Vishwa means everything and everyone in the world, and Guru, of course, means teacher. Maharaj is great ruler. Vishwa Guruji, as I call him, seemingly teaches so patiently, yet accepts no excuses and remains unforgivingly exacting in his lessons. Unlike other ashrams, here there are no apparent boundaries or clear-cut guidelines. Followers are free to do as they please. All classes are open to everyone, from the most refined studies to the most devious and low-minded. Most ashramites or bogies are swamped with so many subjects, they struggle 24 hours a day and still never catch up. This is a very tough school, and the odd thing is, enrollment is automatic. Even without applying for a course, you wind up studying it. It's the default when the guidance of other gurus is rejected. Vishwa Guruji has many doors for entering his ashram and only one for exiting. Gradually, eventually, and it may take many lifetimes, everyone comes to see that he is leading them to an understanding that every freedom has its price, every action its reaction, that the path to perfection is up and up and up our ladder of consciousness, of course. End of quote. In this upward climb in consciousness, at some point when an individual is starting to stand for short periods on the 11th rung of the ladder of consciousness, which is direct cognition, the process becomes a conscious one. Making spiritual progress becomes conscious. That individual would say that he or she is interested in deepening one's spirituality, interested in striving to attain higher consciousness. At this point, it is natural to seek out a traditional Hindu guru for training in the yogas. Yogas are Hinduism's disciplines that one can practice to accelerate moving up in consciousness. Then it lists the 4 yogas, which I won't describe again. It does make the point. Exactly which ones are pursued and in what way varies from guru to guru. However, the overview is the same, which of course we know the more you practice them, the sooner you are able to climb to the next rung on the ladder of consciousness. Rishi Patanjali points out another important aspect of how practice relates to progress in his Yoga Sutras, verse 114, which states that practice needs to be done with devotion and consistently for long periods of time. In other words, making spiritual progress happens slowly and in fact takes multiple lives. So I know individuals who didn't pay much attention to spiritual progress most of their life, and then they get around age 65 and all of a sudden they're in a big hurry. They need to realize God before the end of life. So that's not the Hindu approach. There should be no sense of hurry. We just want to move forward as fast as is convenient, according to our karma and dharma. But we don't want a sense of rushing to the end, at the end of life. In his song, The Yoga Path, Yoga Swami refers to this upward climb. The 6 steps first you must traverse, then will come the silver step. If you surmount that too, my treasure, who will be your equal? So the name of that song, if anyone wants to look it up, is Yoga Neri. The commentary, there's a long commentary on this one, because it has lots of symbolism about horses and breathing and different things. The commentary gives this explanation. The 6 steps are the 6 higher chakras, and the 7th step, or the silver step, is the final stage before liberation, the 7th chakra, the Sahasrara. Oh, it's an interesting point. There's 6. Tamil word for the higher chakras is Adaram, and there are 6 of them, not 7. The 7th, or Sahasrara, is not included as an Adaram. I don't know why. But it's the same idea. You can see Yoga Swami has 7, but he makes the 7th a silver step, different than the 6 steps. Tamil Lexicon gives this definition. Adaram comes from the Sanskrit adara, plexus in the body, of which there are 6. So, of course, adaram is the same word as in muladhara. Adara is the Sanskrit. Adaram is the Tamil. In our modern world, there is a strong trend for individuals to be spiritual but not religious, referred to as SBNR. These individuals are interested in spirituality, such as experiencing higher consciousness, but are doing so outside the context of any of the major religions. One reason for this is that the knowledge that some religions have within them a strong tradition of spirituality is not that well known. The Hindu concept of climbing the ladder of consciousness is definitely a concept of spirituality that can resonate well with many SBNRs. Of course, not all of them, but many. Spirituality doesn't mean the same thing to each SBNR. So some of them may have a very different idea of spirituality than the consciousness of, than the idea of higher consciousness and the higher chakras. Okay. Oop. 1 second. In his talk, Hinduism, the greatest religion in the world, Gurudeva gave this description of Hinduism's path of spirituality. No other faith boasts such a deep and enduring comprehension of the mysteries of existence or possesses so vast a metaphysical system. In the West, it is the mystically awakened soul who is drawn to Hinduism for understanding of inner states of consciousness. Discovering after ardent seeking that Hinduism possesses answers which do not exist elsewhere and is capable of guiding awareness into ever-deepening mind strata. We can all help in making more broadly known the knowledge that Hinduism is a religion with a strong tradition of spirituality within it, and sharing with those interested in spirituality the concept of climbing the ladder of consciousness, which can help effectively convey what is involved in the Hindu approach to experiencing higher consciousness and to eventually achieving moksha. And our third and last topic is an opinion piece. This is by Parta Miller. It was published in 2013. At that time, Parta was age 37 and a history professor at Drexel University. And the article is called How I Became a Hindu, 2013. And this is the only slide for reading the entire article. My family's history in America can be traced back to 1643. Can you imagine that? Being able to go back to 1643 in your family. I am an American of British, German, and Polish descent with roots that delve deeply into Christian Anglo-America. Now, however, I am a Hindu. I was baptized in the Methodist Church of my maternal grandparents, but raised in a largely secular home. From early on, I was aglow with the innate longing for something transcendent. I like that. I was aglow. This was evident in my many teenage studies, sifting through the world's manifold religious and mystical traditions. I spent my young adulthood as a committed atheist, but my longing for the transcendent returned as I matured into adulthood. I concluded that my quest must occur within an established religion and under the guidance of a spiritual authority from an unbroken lineage. I wasn't looking for a religion that would simply comfort me, but one that would bring me into a confrontation with truth, capital T, forcing me to face myself. Having set this criteria for my pursuit, it was Hinduism to which I turned. As fate would have it, there in my own town was a Chinmaya mission temple. Swami Siddhananda, our temple acharya, along with the temple members, welcomed me with great warmth. As I entered this new world with childlike ignorance, Swamiji patiently answered all my questions. He showed me the various basics, including participation in puja and arati. I held the philosophy of Hinduism close to my heart, and felt it easy to assimilate. But I did have difficulty learning the most basic cultural acts and behaviors, those that the children at the temple perform so naturally. After attending the temple for a year, I decided to make a more concrete commitment. I asked Swamiji if there was a formal ceremony that could be done to mark my conversion. He and Pandit Ekambaram Prasad, our temple priest, performed the initiation. During the ceremony, Swamiji gave me the name Partha. A few Christians and others criticized me. They argued that one must draw on one's own heritage. They said Hinduism is an ethnic religion for Indians only, and I would not be able to fully engage in an alien faith. I'd ask, to which heritage of mine should I turn? The Methodism of my grandmother's family? Or perhaps the Mennonites they had previously been? Or the Lutheranism of my paternal grandfather? My ancestors were many things, converting from one religion to another in the face of change. Hinduism is not as alien to Westerners, Hinduism is not as alien to Westerners as one might suppose. American conceptions of the self and God have been evolving since the early 19th century. The writings of Ralph Waldo Emerson, Henry David Thoreau, and other members of the Transcendentalist movement introduced Hindu concepts to the broad American public. Theosophists later popularized, however inaccurately, I find that humorous, many Hindu concepts and paved the way for the arrival of Swami Vivekananda and Paramahansa Yogananda. Today, increasing numbers of non-Hindu Americans accept reincarnation, some simplified version of the Advaita philosophy, the non-duality of self and God, and the belief that there are countless paths to truth. What I needed from a religion was a context and worldview through which I could work towards a direct experience or perception of the self, God, and the supreme truth. Hinduism offers the means to attain these goals. Although the temple I go to is suffused with an Indian culture distinct from my own, Hinduism allows me to pursue eternal principles, transcending the categories of Indian, Western, or American. Thank you very much. Om. Om. Om.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Sadhguru.
Swami.